Are you satisfied?
I guess. Not, I don't know.
I mean, well, no, you guys shouldn't be satisfied. But you guys did a pretty good job on writing. But we're gonna take a look at reading first. Okay. Also, you guys are gonna be going over math a little bit today. Okay. So it's gonna go over some select math questions. And if you guys have any questions regarding math, you can ask him, okay? So let's take a look. Let's take a look at this passage, right? Okay, so so I always tell you guys this, but getting questions right or wrong, solving the questions, reading the passage, it's not important because this is not your test. It's not your test. You're never going to see this test ever again. Like, I mean, like not on test day. Like come test day, it's going to be a different test, right? So what you need to take away from this class, like I always say, is methodologies. It's not necessarily about, so let's say for example, you didn't understand this first sentence. You read this first sentence, you don't understand it. Is there a point in trying to understand this sentence? Because you're never ever gonna see this sentence again, right? So you should be in a different mindset. Your mindset should rather be in, okay, why did I not understand this sentence? You need to think about the reason why you didn't understand a certain sentence. You need to think about the reason why you couldn't see the text structure for a certain sentence, so a certain passage, so you couldn't get the focus shift question right. You couldn't get it right or whatever, right? So you need to think about like specific instances. So you guys took the test today. So think about what you did on the test, okay? So when you were solving the first passage, what were you thinking, right? So you want to think about that, right? And what did I do wrong? And what can I do better? Like, was it better if I did not read this sentence? Was it better if I annotated it in a different way? So those are the questions that you should be asking yourself. Okay, so it's a book of unknown Americans. I don't know. I don't get any kind of information, which means the passages, I mean, the point of them having questions is they're probably going to ask you a lot about what's going to happen here. Okay, so it's not necessarily, yeah, we're going to see some characterizations and stuff, but also you need to figure out what's going on right now, right? So let's take a look. One afternoon, okay, so first thing, literature passage, when you're reading the first sentence, first thing that you should think is point of view, right? So it's easy to not think about this. Just go in autopilot mode and just say, you know, whatever, right? One afternoon I made chacarons and carried them over to Celia's apartment, whatever, okay, fine. No, whenever you read the first sentence, you need to think about the point of view. Is the narrator in the story, or is it told from a third person point of view, right? So ask yourself that. Yeah, so narrator's in the story in this case, right? One afternoon, I made chicharrones and carried them over to Celia's apartment. Okay, so it's probably going to be Celia and the narrator, right? She clapped her hands together in delight when she saw me and motioned for me to come inside. Okay, so this is plot, right? Plot, first plot, right? She made, I mean, I don't know. This is probably, it's gonna be some kind of food, okay? I don't know. Like she made this and then she went to her apartment. So now we're in her apartment. These are for you, I said, holding out a foil covered plate. Yeah, so that thing is probably going to be food, right? She lifted a corner of the foil and sniffed. Sabroso, she said. Okay. I loved how full her home felt. Okay. So now what are we talking about? Now we're talking about her home. embroidered pillows on the couches, a curio stacked with milk, glass bowls and recuerdos and folded tablecloths, red blah, 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 blah. Okay, a lot of detail here. What are you going to do here? What are you going to do? Well, I'm not going to read this, right? Okay, why is the author mentioning all these details? It's just to mention the fact that her home felt full. That's it, right? In order to get that point across, she gave us a lengthy description of the home. So what you can do here is, okay, so this is about the full home. I don't know exactly what you mean full, right? Later on, if they ask me a question about the home, then I'm going to come back and read that bit. But for now, no, I don't care. I'm just going to do this, right? Mi casa is tu casa. Celia joked as I looked around. Isn't that what the Americans say? Oh, so I can start making guesses here, but I better not, right? Like, is the narrator, like my initial guess, like you can instinctively guess kind of like, oh, you know, she's probably not American, right? So like Celia is probably not American, and the narrator may be American or maybe not. Maybe they're just making fun of Americans. Or maybe she is American, so she's saying, hey, isn't this what you guys say all the time, right? So, but I don't want to make a guess. She poured cold, crackling Coca-Colas for both of us, and we sat on the couch, sipping them. Okay, so they're friendly to each other, right? So far, narrator went to Celia's house. Okay, and what do I know about her house? Her house was full, and then now they're drinking Coke together, right? For both of us, and we sat on the couch, sipping them and taking small bites of the seas. She looked just as she had the first time I met her. Characterization of Celia. Impeccably pulled together with the face full of makeup. Okay. This is her physical description, right? So it's not necessarily talking about, you know, like what kind of person she is, what she likes to do, but, you know, impeccably pulled together with the face full of makeup. So she's, you know, like she's home, but still she wears makeup and impeccable, right? Lips, chestnut brown, chin length, hair curled at the ends, right? So she takes good care of herself, right? Just, you know, like physical appearance wise, right? And tucked neatly behind her ears, small gold earrings. Okay, so this whole bit up to like here is Celia's characterization, right? So what do I know about Celia? I mean, like, well-dressed, and she's like, a word that they use is impeccable, right? Flawless, right? And then it says, so unlike most of my friends. Okay, so here you go. So here's a comparison, right? So a comparison between my friends and Celia. So I guess, you know, my friends, they're not so well-dressed or whatever kind of thing. They don't really care that much about their physical appearance. So there's a comparison here. So I want to take note of that, right? So unlike my friends. Who use nothing but soap on their faces. Okay, so there you go. So this is what they do, right? It's not like they were all drug addicts and they don't care. They care of themselves. It's like they don't wear a lot of makeup. They don't pull their hair back. Blah blah blah. That kind of thing. It's just they just use soap, right? They don't put makeup on, and aloe on their hands, and who kept their hair pulled into ponytails like mine. Okay, so she was also like that, right? Very modest in appearance. Or simply combed after it had been washed and left to air dry. Okay, so we see a contrast here. So that's the only interesting thing that we've seen so far, right? So the contrast is between Celia and between Celia and the narrator and her friends, right? So there's a difference here, right? Okay. And then it says, Celia told me about the provisions we would need for winter. Okay, so by provisions, what do we mean? Heavy coats and a stack of comforters and something called long underwear that made me laugh when she tried to describe it. And about okay, so they just, you know, all right, so they're just having small talk, I guess, right? So stuff that you need during the winter, this is the first thing that they talked about. And they also talked about the community house. Okay, so what's the community house? Where they offered immigrant services if we needed them. Oh, there you go. Is she American? No, she's not American. The narrator's not American. So both of them, I guess, they're immigrants. They're people from Mexico. I don't know. Or South America. I mean, just judging by their names and the names of their foods and whatever. I mean, you don't need to make that guess, but they're immigrants, right? They're immigrants. They speak Spanish, whatever, right? Yeah, but they're in America, I guess. That's why they joked in the beginning, and they poured Coke, right? They're drinking Coke. I don't know, whatever, right? And she gossiped about people in the building. She told me that, all right, so another person who she claimed always wore his camera around his neck had a sensitive side. There you go. Characterization, right? So M.A. had a sensitive side, despite the fact that he might look big and burly, and that Benny Quinto, who was close friends with Micho, had studied to be a priest. Okay, so years ago. Did he become a priest? I don't know. She said that Q dyed her hair, which was hardly news. I had assumed as much when I met her. Okay, so, you know, what are they talking about? So now these are the stuff. This is the, I guess, the small talk that they're having together, right? They're talking about like different things happening. Hey, we need winter coats. Hey, we talked about the community, like immigrant services. Talk about some people that mutual friends, mutual acquaintances that we know, blah, blah, blah. It's the most unnatural shade of red. Okay, so yeah, they're just talking about really trivial stuff like people's hair colors and stuff like that. Raphael says it looks like she dumped a pot of tomato sauce on her head. Okay, so I guess, I mean, this could potentially, I doubt it's going to show up. Maybe it is, but anyway, so this is Q, right? Dyed her hair. Raphael, she chortled. Q is a busybody. What does it mean, busybody? What does busybody mean? Busybody, okay, so busybody is a noun, but usually when they use it, they say busybodyism. Okay, what's busybodyism? It's you know, kind of like not minding your own business, right? Not minding your own business and, you know, just telling everybody, like you just go up to your like, okay, imagine you guys are doing your you guys are taking notes or whatever, and Matthew, all of a sudden you stop and you look at Yuna and you say, hey, you shouldn't take notes that way. Hey, here, let me help you, and then you go ahead and like intervene. That would be like a busybody. Like you like to not mind your own business. You like to like intervene in other people's affairs and that kind of thing. That's so if it says Q is a busybody, she likes to tell people what to do, right? And you know, kind of, you know, not mind her own business. Like so it doesn't have a positive connotation. It actually has a pretty negative connotation. In Korean, did you guys ever hear 오지랖? 오지랖? Did you? It's kind of that. But it's only because she's so insecure. Okay, there you go. So she doesn't mind her own business, but it's because she's insecure. So these are stuff that I want to remember. So this bit, it's all about Q, right? Quiskea or whatever, right? Doesn't know how to connect with people. Don't let her put you off. Okay, so put you off meaning like, hey, you know, she's not really like a bad person or anything. Like, don't be put off by her. Celia began telling me about when she and Rafael and her boys had come here from Panama. Okay, so it's Panama, not Mexico, right? So I guess Celia is a mom, right? Celia is a mom, and she has her sons with her 15 years ago. Oh, 15 years ago. So she's been here for a while. So I guess she's like the more experienced immigrant. And the narrator's kind of new to the environment, and so like she's explaining to him, hey, this person is like this, that's immigrant services, the winters here are really cold, so you better be ready. So she's been here less than a year, you can infer that, right? So that kind of thing. So your son, he was born there, I asked. Okay, so I have two boys. Okay, so so now this is the narrator asking her about her sons, right? Both of them were born there, meaning Panama, right? Enrique, my oldest, is away at college. Okay, Enrique, college, soccer scholarship. And there's Mayor, who you met. He's nothing at all like his brother. Okay, so I guess they are quite opposites. But I don't know in what sense they are unlike each other. I want to find out. Rafa thinks we might have taken the wrong baby home from the hospital. Oh, yeah, I mean, this is just her saying the same thing, right? But do we know what Mayor's like? No, not at all. We just know Enrique goes to college and he has a soccer scholarship. But maybe this person also went to college and has a soccer scholarship. I have no idea. We don't know what to think of that. But the thing we know is they don't have many stuff in common, right? Sorry. Okay, she forced a smile. Just a joke, of course. Okay. Well, this bit was a joke. That's what she's saying, right? She stood and lifted a framed picture from the end table. This is from last summer before Enrique went back to school, she said, handing it to me. Micho took it for us. Okay, so now they're looking at a picture, right? All right, so there's a lot of different things happening, but what's like the overarching thing? Like, it's like she just visited Celia, and then they're just talking about their lives, right? Getting to know each other kind of thing, right? In the photo were two boys. Mayor, whom I recognize from the store, so I guess they run I mean, maybe they don't run a store, but I mean, they met at the store. Small for his age with dark buzzed hair and sparkling eyes, and Enrique, who stood next to his brother with his arm crossed, the faint shadow of a mustache above his lip. Okay, so this is the photo. This is what you want to, like, so these are the kinds of stuff that you want to do here. Right? So you want to be as organized as possible because this story is all over the place. So just, you know, do what you can, right? Why are you doing this? Because when you're doing the line reference questions, you want to save as much time as possible. So if your eyes just glance over here when you're not talking about the photo, you should stop yourself. Like, so that's what your objective should be when you're reading a relatively easier passage, and this one has it has a lot of information, although it is easy. What about you, Celia asked, do you have other children besides your daughter? Only her. So this is what we find out about the narrator. I said, glancing at my hands around the glass. The perspiration from the ice had left a ring on a thigh of my pants. Okay, so this is just, you know, what's happening. It gives a sense of we're actually in the moment kind of thing. And she's going, Celia trade off as though she didn't want to say it out loud. To E. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what this is. So her daughter goes to E, but what in the world is this? Celia nodded. She looked like she didn't know what to say next, and I felt a mixture of embarrassment and indignation. All right, so she told her that her daughter goes to E, but I don't know what this is. But I guess it's something to feel embarrassed about. It's something to, I don't know. So let's find out. It's temporary. She only has to go there for a year or two. Huh. I guess it's some kind of school, or I don't know. It could be a hospital. I don't know. I don't want to make any guesses. I want the passage to say it for me, unless one of the questions forced me to actually make an inference. But it's just, right? So she's going to Evers for a year or two, the daughter. And then she says, you don't have to explain it to me. She's going to get better. I heard it's a good school. There you go. So it's a school, right? So now you know that Evers is a school, but I guess it's some kind of school that people are not so happy that their children are going to, right? I hope so. It's why we came. Okay, so C gazed at me for a long time before she said, when we left Panama, it was falling apart. R thought it would be better. Okay, so it talked about Panama falling apart. Thought it would be better for the boys to grow up here, even though Panama was where we had spent our whole lives. It's amazing, isn't it? What parents will do for their children. Okay, so now they found some common ground that they're talking that they both care about, right? So I mean, why are we talking about this? It's amazing what parents will do for their children. I guess they moved to the States because of their children, right? This bit, right? That's why we came. So they came to America because of their children's education, or perhaps other, like their lives kind of thing, right? I shouldn't make an assumption and say school, by the way, right? Well, I guess you could say that it's because of the school they came. It's why we. I hope it's a good school. The school is why we came. So perhaps, right? So anyway, she put her hands on mine. A benediction. From then we were friends. Okay, so a what is a benediction? Her putting her hand on mine, right? So that is quote unquote a benediction. Okay, so I don't want to talk about this right now because it's in one of the questions, right? Okay, so any questions on this passage? So something that you should focus on is when you're reading the passage, make sure to like divide the bits. Divide the bits meaning like say for example, starting in the beginning when we were talking here, like here for example, you want to say, okay, so this whole bit is about the home, right? This whole bit is about the home. So unless you're looking for, when you're solving line reference questions or when you're referring back to the passage, if you're not particularly looking for the physical description of the home, your eyes shouldn't glance over this part, right? You would be amazed at how you sift through the passage like over and over again repeatedly. So in order for you not to do that, you want to do this, okay? Who ran out of time today? Okay, this time you didn't run out of time. Now it's the other way around. How many minutes did you have left? 5 minutes. When did you run out of time?
I had 10 minutes on history and I did read it, but I wasn't able to finish all the questions.
Okay. Did you solve some of the questions or? Oh, okay. So you were working on the questions. Did you say halfway through the questions or no? Half? Okay, about half. Okay, good. Well, you're kind of extreme, aren't you? Last time, didn't you say you guessed on every single question for the history passage?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. Description it primarily serves to. Okay, so now, so when you see this, right? We know, yeah, this is the part that we've just annotated, right? Her home, and then what was the thing? So the thing about the home was that it was full. Quote unquote full, right? That's what it says in the passage. But just based on full, can I find something that means full? By full, I don't know what it means. So now you should go back to that part, right? Go back to that part. Take a look at the description. Take a look at the description. Let's read some bits, okay? So embroidered pillows, curios stacked with milk glass bowls, recuerdos, red votives along the windowsills, spidery potted plants, rugs, posters, Panama beaches on the walls, box of rinsed bottles, small radio. So it's just describing like what's in like a home. So I don't know. I don't get it. Like, okay, so what does it mean full? Like, does it literally mean the house was full? Like it was full of stuff? Is that what it's trying to say? Probably not, but I could leave that possibility open. So now I want to take a look here. A says, evoke a sense of coziness and comfort. That's possible. Full could have that connotation to it. And based on the description, like it really had a lot of, it had like a human touch to it, right? It's not like this empty apartment without anything. You just have a bed, you don't have anything, it's just plain. No, it was like full of, it has that sense of, it's where people live. Like actually people live there and it's their home. It's established, right? Like that kind of thing. So this one is possible. Hectic, really? It was used in a very positive connotation, so I don't want to look for this negative one. Extol the ready availability of goods. Well, what about the pillows and stuff? I wouldn't say availability of goods, right? Establish that C is an avid collector. Well, she doesn't really collect anything. It's just stuff that you use if you live there. So A would be the right answer here. Okay, according to the passage, which fact about Celia's neighbors does the narrator know before she visits their apartment? Okay, so this is why I said you guys need to annotate the passage well, because they could ask very trivial questions. And do we have a line reference for this? We don't. So you're on your own to find this. So you don't want to, like, what you want to do, like, preferably is you should be able to rephrase at least which part this is going to be, like, not rephrase, but you should be able to look at this, and once we say neighbors, you should look at that word and tell yourself, okay, I think I remember where neighbors were mentioned. You should at least identify the paragraph or something like that, right? Okay, so let's take a look. But so you have two choices here, actually. You can go back to the passage, but actually that would be pretty ineffective. Like, what would be better is if you went through the answer choices first, like a very cursory glance over them, or you can just read over them quickly. Then preferably you can get rid of some really obviously wrong answers, and some that you can think on, like some like, oh, I think I remember something like this, but was it actually in the passage? Let me confirm. So you want to go back in that sense. So let's take a look at A. Our close friends. Well, I didn't see anything like that. It was like, I was talking about MA, and then this person was like sensitive person, and then BQ was something else, right? But we never talked about a relationship between these two characters, so I don't want to say this. BQ once studied to be a priest. Okay, so this is actually, wait, was Abe actually mentioned in the passage? Do you know?
Oh, I think so.
Was it?
Yeah, this is close friends.
Oh, it does say close. Okay, so you don't want to do that. So you don't want to make any assumptions like that, like something that's irrelevant. So you can say like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to go back and confirm that a little bit later. Benny Quinto once studied to be a priest. This I do remember. Has a sensitive side. This I also remember. This I also remember. So it's all there, right? So you need to actually think about this. Okay. So but explicitly something is mentioned. She knew something before she arrived there. So I just want to look at this word, know. Like, is there any word within that vicinity that's closest to this, right? So that's how you want to look at it. So this one, there's really no way around it. So while you're reading, you should be able to come to this part, right? So she dyed her hair, which was hardly news. So it wasn't news, right? She was not surprised to hear that. She said, I had assumed as much when I met her. So it's mentioned here explicitly. So D would be the right answer. Okay, when Celia tells the narrator not to let Q put you off, she most nearly means that the narrator should not. Okay, so yeah, you should. So this is an idiomatic saying, but if you don't know what it is, you can look at the context and kind of guess what it is. But I mean, this you should know. But let's imagine that we don't know this. Okay, so don't let her put you off, right? So what does she say? Well, yeah, you know, she might seem really bad, right? She might seem really bad, but it's because this, right? So she's explaining that, and then she says she doesn't know how to connect with people, right? Saying like, yeah, she's not really a bad person. It's because she's insecure and that kind of thing. You should understand. Don't be put off by her, right? So the opposite of being put off by someone would be understanding, right? Be understanding of that person, right? So it would be A. Which choice best describes the narrator's relationship with Celia's sons? Okay, so I mean, I'm gonna have a line reference here, so you can either look for the line reference first, or you can try and depend on your knowledge of the passage and just eliminate the really wrong, obviously wrong answer choices. This time, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try and do the line reference first, okay? So it's Celia's sons, and what does the narrator, what's the narrator's relationship to them? Sorry, I'm pretty sick, but it's not the coronavirus. Okay? It's because I just digestion problems. You know, like you know when you 체해 and you get like a really bad headache. Yeah, so I'm not kind of myself right now. Sorry about that. Anyway, okay, so let's go to 58. So your son, he was born there. Well, I don't know. I mean, she's just asking a question about her son. So I mean, I don't really know. So, I mean, I need to look for the relationship between the narrator and the two sons, okay? So, it says, I have two boys. Both of them were born there. is away at college. Wait. Is this the right line reference? 59 to 62? Wait, am I looking at the right question? Sorry. Yeah, okay, so 58, it says, 58, we crossed it out. And then B is from here to here, right? Okay, so let's take a look. I have 2 boys. So here we do talk about the sons, so that's good. Enrique, my oldest, is away at college on a soccer scholarship, and there's Mayor, who you met. So if anything, this could suggest that their relationship, right? I mean, it's not that they actually have like an actual characterized relationship, but it's just that they've met, right? They've met Mayor, okay? What's the next one? 65. Okay. Stood, blah, blah, blah. This is from last summer before Enrique went back to school. She said, handing it to me. Micho took it first. Well, I don't know. They're just looking at the photo. How do I know the relationship between the narrator and the sons? Not this one, right? What's the next one? 74. What about you? Do you have a... No. Doesn't hint at the relationship. So our answer is going to be B, right? So met... So I guess it's going to be this, right? Narrator has seen Mayor in person, this one, but she has seen Enrique only in Celia's photo. So this one's the closest that it's going to be, right? So C is the right answer. Celia recounts Rafa's jokes primarily in order to. So what was that joke? Let's go back and check. It's that bit where she was talking about we might have taken the wrong baby from the hospital, home from the hospital, right? So here, what's the meaning of this? It's just to emphasize this. He's nothing at all like his brother, right? So it was it was comparing the 2 characters and saying they have nothing in common, right? And then, you know, she's emphasizing that using this quote-unquote joke here, okay? So stress how different her sons are. So that you can do that. I mean, you can find this based on the previous statement, right? The previous statement was about how different they are, right? It was a comparison. They have nothing in common. So 6 is C. 7. It is most reasonable to infer that Celia knows the answer to which question about the narrator's family before the narrator visits her apartment. Okay. Well, Celia knows something about the narrator's family, right? So how am I going to do this? Better have a line reference. Yeah, okay. So something that Celia already knows, but not just anything about the narrator's family. So this is what I need to look for, right? What Celia knows about the family. So 79 to 80, let's take a look here. And Celia trailed off as though she did not want to say it out loud. Oh, Yeah. So she was going to finish her sentence, but she just stopped in the middle, right? She's just saying, oh, and she's going, well, I better not say it, kind of thing, right? So this should be our answer, right? And so it's implying that she knew about Evers, right? She knew that her daughter goes to Evers. So I guess that's the question that she knows the answer to. So it would be B and A here. Can reasonably be inferred that Celia tells the narrator about leaving Panama primarily to. Okay, so why does Celia talk about Panama thing? Okay, so let's take a look here. I hope so. It's why we came. So after the narrator says, "Oh, this is why we came," and then what does Celia say? She looked at me for a long time before she said, "When we left Panama." Okay, so just imagine this scene in your head. Okay, so hey, like she like they're both immigrants, and then one of them says, "This is like the school is why we came here," and then she's just looking at her. And then she says, when we left Panama, right? So she's sharing her story also, right? She made, like, you know, when you're talking to people and they tell you something pretty personal. I mean, okay, like maybe you guys don't feel that way, but it's just usually how relationships work, right? Usually when you're getting to know someone, this is, I mean, if you guys learn psychology, like they talk about this, like when you say something personal, the other person is going to feel compelled to reveal something about himself also, himself or herself. Do you know that? Like if someone tells you, hey, you know, tells you a secret, well, someone comes up to you, hey, I actually killed someone yesterday. And so you say, actually, I did that too. Well, no, not something as extreme as that, but if someone, like, it's kind of that thing, right? So she said something pretty personal, right? It's why we came here. And then now she's like, when we left Panama, it was falling apart, and I thought it would be better for the boys to grow up here. So she's like, yeah, me too. Right? Yeah, me too. Even though Panama was where we had spent our whole lives. It's amazing, isn't it, what parents will do for their children? So he's saying, hey, we have something in common, right? So that's kind of what's happening here. So A, encourage the narrator to share her story. Well, no, it's actually quite the opposite. She's just trying to say, hey, yeah, you know, I'm in a similar situation with you, right? So she's just trying to do that. So not say, hey, you should tell me your story. Tell me your full story right now. No, she's not doing that. Remind the narrator of the reasons they both immigrated. Well, it's not, she doesn't need to remind the narrator. They already both know what it is, right? So not that. Console the narrator by describing how Celia's family has prospered. No, we don't know this. I mean, it's kind of inferred, but it's not the purpose of the story, right? So assure the narrator that she understands and empathizes with her. Yeah. So it's saying, yeah, I'm on the same boat with you. You know, it's not just you who feels that way. It's me also, right? Okay, benediction primarily serves to. Okay, so what does a benediction mean, first of all? It's like a blessing. That's what it is. So usually they talk about this. They use this word. They use this word a lot in like church settings. Benediction, right? So what was a benediction? Yeah. Her putting her hand on mine, right? So her hand was like this, and she was like, hey, I'm kind of like you also, right? you'll be fine, kind of thing, right? I've been here for 15, like, so you know what the situation is now, right? The narrator just came here, just moved to America, and she's been here 15 years, and judging by her looks and everything, right? She was really well put together, right? She's wearing makeup in the house, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, the house is pretty full. It's like, she's done well for like an immigrant, right? Well, I'm not saying immigrants are not well, not for an immigrant, but like she immigrated there, and she did well for herself, right? And now she's saying to this new immigrant, hey, you'll be fine. That's a blessing, right? She was blessing her, saying you're going to be okay, right? So that's how the narrator took it. So that's how the narrator took it in. Oh, it's blessing me. Did someone get this question wrong? Did you get it wrong? Okay. Okay, I'm really sorry, but like my headache is like, it's killing me. But don't remember, don't worry, it's not corona. It's not corona, don't worry. Let's we'll go to writing really quick, okay? So what I want you to do right now, we'll take kind of like a mini break, but not really. What you're gonna do is go over the questions. I mean, don't look at the answer sheet, go over the questions and try to look for answers that you weren't questions that you weren't 100% sure of. Okay? So what do I mean? What does it mean to be sure that you got a question right? It means you eliminate 3 answer choices, right? Yeah, but how do you eliminate it? Well, eliminating means you can explain why that answer choice is wrong, right? So say, for example, if I do A in a sentence structure question, this would follow. Like, it would entail this. Then I know this is a wrong sentence structure. Why? Because you can't just put a clause and clause next to each other. You need a conjunction, or you need to use punctuation, right? But if it's lacking that, it's wrong. The same for this. Let's say, for example, I say subject, verb, and then and then I use like a semicolon, and then I only have a verb here. You know this is wrong. Why? Because after a semicolon, unless it's a list, you need a full-on sentence, right? So that kind of thing. Okay, so why don't you guys look over your test and mark all the ones that you weren't 100% sure of. Okay. Could I take a look? Quick look. Or is this the mark?
Yeah.
The triangle? Okay, thanks. Is this your mark?
Yeah.
What kind of mark is this?
It's a small blue mark.
What?
It's a small blue mark with a pen.
Yeah, but what does this mean?
I wasn't sure.
I mean, but what kind of... You scribbled?
Yeah.
Just random scribbling next to it? That's it?
There should be a second one somewhere.
I can't find it.
Look for the blue mark.
I mean, yeah, but what kind of mark is this?
I think if you go to the third passage, you can find it.
It's the worst mark ever. It's worst mark in the world. Okay, that's like the worst that I've ever seen. It's just there's like question 12 and then what is this? What is this? Just
I
like,
wasn't expecting that actually.
yeah, I mean, just put like a star next to it, or I don't know, like a check mark next to it. I don't know, something that's conventional, something that actual people do, something that actual human beings do. Okay, so okay, let's go over some of the questions. Okay. I can't remember all of them, so you guys need to tell me, okay? Let's take a look at number 1. So tone and style. So what do we need to do when it comes to tone and style? Matt, what do we need to do?
Well, we should eliminate some of the
Mhm.
obvious answer choice, like the too colloquial, like if the language
Yes.
is too colloquial.
Yes, exactly. If it's too colloquial, I don't want to think about that. There's no instance in which it's okay to use them. It's always wrong, like being, okay? So A, if you take a look at A, this is an example of colloquial language. Way more, right? You don't say way more when you're writing like a formal article, right? You just say many more people, or you know, whatever, right? So A is gone, right? What about B? An unusually large crowd. I don't see. I don't know. I mean, does it sound colloquial? No. Unusual is a pretty good word, right? Large, yeah, fine. Crowd. Okay, so I mean, I don't know. Whole bunch. Here you go. I don't want to use the word bunch. Okay. So A and B are out because they're colloquial. What about D? An enormous crowd. Okay, that's good. Enormous crowd of an unparalleled nature. So okay, so so now what's my next step? So now I'm comparing these two things, but our next question should be, is it too much, right? So first thing that we think about is colloquial language. Next thing that we think about is it really over the top? Really? Well, what do we need? Are we really trying to say an enormous crowd of an unparalleled nature? I mean, it's kind of redundant too if you think about it. You could just say enormous crowd or a large crowd. I mean, I don't know. Like it's just something's off about this. So you can't really so for tone and style questions, it's not always easy to pinpoint the exact reason, but always, you know, there's gonna be ones that are overdone, right? They use too many fancy words unnecessarily. That's the thing you need to know. So that's why it's B here. Okay, so after this one, which one? So let's focus on the first passage. So number 1 to 11. Okay, 8. Do we have any before 8? Do we have any before 8?
Number 4.
And so anywhere in between number 1 and 11.
9.
And that's it? Okay, so let's take a look at 4. All right, so I think you guys need to know this for math also. Proceed. What does proceed mean?
To come before.
Yeah, come before. So if A precedes B, what does that mean? A comes before B, right? That's what preceding is, right? What about proceed? I mean, this is something completely different, right? Proceed. Yeah, proceed. Proceed, I mean, you may, like, okay, on test day, they tell you, okay, you may proceed. You can go on, right? That's, and if what's a proceeding then? Proceeding is some kind of like, it's similar to, how can I explain a proceeding? What's a proceeding? Okay, so I don't know. There's let's say there's some kind of formal meeting today, right? Formal meeting, and we have a certain agenda to do, and you can say, hey, okay, so the proceedings will be held at the auditorium, right? That then it would be referring to the meeting itself or that kind of thing, right? Anyway, okay, what's a precedent? What's a precedent? Earlier event, but yes. But more specifically, it refers to an earlier event that serves as an example or a guide for future events. That's what a precedent is, right? So George Washington's presidency is significant in the sense that it serves as a precedent for future. It served and still is serving as a precedent for future presidents, right? You know, what else? Like when it comes to law, precedents are a big thing, right? So I told you guys, like in Korea, the law is written, right? There's a written law, but not so in the American judiciary system. They don't have written laws. They have precedents. They just have cases. So usually when you kill a person, so like there was that initial precedent. If you kill a person, you plan out the murder, and if you kill that, if it's a premeditated murder, then in this case, we think about this and that, and then we usually give this person about like 30 years in jail, 30 years in prison or something. Then, you know, if a similar case happens, a similar thing's going to happen. That's how the judiciary system works, right? What about, procedure you guys are familiar with, right? So the day's proceedings. Okay, so now we should go with this, right? It's the event itself. It's referring to the events itself, right? Stuff that happened. Okay. So need for a spirit of love and worldwide brotherhood. All right, so let's take a look. What's an easy way to think about this? Okay, so need for a spirit of love and worldwide brotherhood. So basically, this thing, right? This thing is a prepositional phrase, just modifying the need, right? So basically, it's saying he emphasized the need of something, and then we move on to this part, right? So the need of something, A says from facing. The need from facing? No. The need for, well, we already have, that would be changing the meaning a lot, right? For facing, it should be in facing. So basically what the sentence is saying is, when we are facing challenges of the future, we need a spirit of love and worldwide brotherhood. In facing this, we need a spirit of love and worldwide brotherhood, right? So that's what this is. Number 9, Dr. King spoke. Okay, so it's it's a sentence combination question, but it's pretty easy. Why? Because he spoke about this, and then he also inspired unity. So the relationship is specified, right? Because of the word also. It's a continuation, right? It's not a cause and effect. It's not a contrast, right? So I can get rid of anything that's a contrast or a cause and effect by inspiring it that day, okay? Spoke about unity by doing this. So so I guess if I'm just looking at the grammar, I would say it's okay. This one is wrong though, because it's using a contrast word, right? It's not a contrast, it's a continuation. This one too, I don't want to use a however here, okay? D says Dr. King did not just, okay, so this actually kind of changed the verbs and stuff, but what is it? He didn't just speak about unity, he inspired it. Okay, so that is also, this is in a continuation relationship. Okay, so this one is pretty good actually. So now what do you want to think about? Okay, so is A okay actually? By doing something. By doing something. Think about this. By inspiring unity, he spoke about unity. Right? So think about this. It's, if you say by inspiring something, you're using that, right? Through inspiring unity, he spoke about unity. No, that's not what we want to say, because we just want to have a parallel relationship, right? We want to say he spoke about unity and also that he inspired unity. So the continuation relationship is best expressed in D. This is not actually that kind of continuation that we're looking for here, because it's an also and we use this. Okay. Okay, so what about the next passage? So from the second passage, tell me the question numbers from 12 to 22. 12 to 22.
15,
Huh?
15,
Okay. And? And? Okay. Just tell me all your stuff. 21. And? That's it?
or just this passage.
Yes. Okay. So 12 to 22. Tell me all the numbers. That's it? Okay. Okay. First of all, we're not talking about multiple productions here. We're talking about one specific production. So I'm not going to take a look at A and B at all, right? There's only one production. Like, yeah, it's talking about like this guy and his play production, right? So I want to look at C and D. Okay. So just get rid of this. I don't quite understand why you'll be confused with this, but if you say sets, okay, so this is a possessive, right? Which means that you would need a noun right after this, right? But I don't have it, so it will be D. So a theater critic blanked. Okay, so this is actually what the theater critic said, right? One feels oneself present at the beginning of a revolution. Huh. Okay, so the theater critic saw the scene and then he says, hey, this is like at the beginning of the revolution, right? Okay, so A says he wondered. Okay, wondered of. If he say he wondered at, that might have been okay. Okay, but you wonder, if you wonder of something, it's you're actually curious about it. So that would change the meaning. So A is wrong. Presumed of. Okay, presume is guess, right? Presumably something here. C is he sensed of this. Well, so it's not him sensing. It would better if he observed it, right? He observed, making an observation. Looking at the scene and making an observation. Is he actually like sensing something? Like, oh, I can sense that revolution. No, it's not. It's not that. He's just looking at the play and he's saying, hey, this is actually really good. It's like, he's really starting something. It's like a beginning of a revolution. Right? So that's him making an observation. So that would be D here. Okay. So starting from 23 to 33. 23 to 33 questions. Next passage. 28 and? And? Okay, what's like a very easy thing to look for? Like a very easy thing to look for is this. Well, first of all, it goes without saying that this is a sentence structure question, right? So we need to think about the sentence structure. They all have different grammar inputs. So I'm going to look at the sentence starting from here. Such breeding was intended. Such breeding was intended. to produce certain physical qualities in the domestic finches, comma, but. Okay, so if I have a comma, but, this is used as a coordinating conjunction, right? So what needs to follow after this? I had a subject and a verb. There you go, okay? So we have everything that we need. We have a full sentence, right? We have a subject, verb, coordinating conjunction, subject, verb. So what can happen after this? Okay, so unintended consequence increased. What? Okay, I mean, this doesn't make any sense, right? We unintended consequence, and then we just have another noun right here. Like you're putting two nouns next to each other for no reason. That doesn't make any sense, right? So A is gone. What about, like, I just want to check for C first, right? Why? Because if I have a semicolon, it means what? After that, what's going to follow? Sentence, right? So let's see if I see that sentence. Increased song complexity in the Bangladesh. Okay, increased song complexity, and then I have a prepositional phrase, and then I have another prepositional phrase till the end. So it's a noun, right? So I can't do this. Can I do this? No. Okay, I just said, it's a noun. This whole bit that follows after is a noun. So my only possible answer choice is B. So I need a colon, and then I put a noun right after that. Okay, so this is a sentence combination. Well, we have a. I mean, this one looks like a mess because we have a list and stuff. So you need to be careful. So especially in these kinds of cases, you need to be careful of modifiers. Okay, so it's easy to get lost, especially if the sentences are way too long. Anyway, so what did he find? He found that female finches tend to choose males with loud, high-pitched improvisational songs. Okay, so female finches prefer this. This is the first sentence, and then sentence number 2 is these males are chosen over those with some. Okay, so these males are chosen over these ones. So these ones are not preferable, and these ones are preferable. Blue is preferable, right? Female finches choose this. These males are chosen over those with these, right? This is kind of misleading. So female finches choose this. They don't choose these. Do you get it? Right? So these two things are in a contrast relationship. All right, so let's take a look. A says female finches tend to choose males with loud. Okay, so this is the blue bit, right? Over those with soft. Okay, so choose these over those refer to males. So that's good. Males. Like this, right? So this is okay. So I'm gonna let this go. What about B? Males with loud, high-pitched improvisational songs tend to be the ones chosen by female finches over those with. Okay, so this one, the pronoun is ambiguous. Those could be no. Over. Yeah, I mean it is. Well, because whenever you see those, you wanna look for the recent plural noun. So that's one thing. And another thing is I'll talk about this a little bit after, once I take a look at other ones. Loud, high-pitched improvisational songs are sung by males that female finches tend to choose over those with. All right, I mean, fine. whatever. Choosing males with loud, high-pitched improvisational song over those with soft, low splitter is what female finches tend to do. Wow, that's like a really long sentence. Okay, so this is a good exercise in concision. Okay, so do you guys remember what you need to look for when we're looking at concision? Matt?
Meaning.
Concision.
Oh,
Okay, first thing that you need to look for is number of clauses, right? So this actually trumps everything else. So you'll always need to go in this order. This is the most important thing, and then the repetition of pronouns. So what do I mean repeating pronouns? Like, let's say for example, this one has the book in it, and all else is equal, this one has the book, but it has this. It referring to the book. You understand what this means? Are you guys looking at this? So this one did not unnecessarily repeat saying this again. So this one is the answer, is what I'm saying. Okay? And the last thing that you need to look for is passive versus active. Which one is preferable? Which one do you want? Do you want the active voice or do you want the passive voice? Yeah. So, but you always need to go in this order though. Okay? You don't want to go backwards. If you go backwards, you might actually eliminate the right answer choice. Okay? So this is all under the assumption that you already look for meaning and relationships. Okay? So after you look for grammar, meaning, relationships, then you're looking at concision. Okay? So so if you take a look here, I mean, I think they all have just one clause. I mean, the clause number is not different here. It's pretty much the same. So I'm just going to look for this repetition of pronouns, like okay, repetition of pronouns, blah blah blah, males, those. I mean, this is inevitable. Blah 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 blah. Sung by males that female finches tend to overdose with. Okay, fine. Males over those with soft is what female finches tend to do. Okay, fine. Well, then what's my choice? Active versus passive voice. Loud, blah blah blah. Over. Oh, this isn't the active voice. This is chosen by. So this is passive. Males that female. Songs are sung. I see a passive voice here. Choosing blah 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 over those one is what female finches. I mean, okay, so this one, this one is kind of exceptional, right? But you know, this is not preferable. This one is like this whole bit is the subject, right? This is the subject. You don't want to do that, right? Because this is like a bad way to write a sentence. You want to make, I mean, we didn't talk about this. This is like, it's kind of exceptional, but you don't want this. So if you eliminate all the ones with the passive voices, then A is the right answer. Okay, let's just do this one and then we'll take a break. So let's take a look here. All right. So this is a transition question. So we need to figure out the relationship between the two sentences. I'm just gonna start from here, right? Okay. So this guy, saw a contradiction in this idea. Okay, so he saw a contradiction. Okay, so he saw a contradiction. What was the contradiction? Song complexity should occur when there is pressure to identify a male of the same species. Okay, so song complexity should occur when there is pressure to identify a mate of the same species. So, you know, that's why songs are complex. They want to identify males of the same species. What about this one? It should not occur among birds in captivity. So what is this talking about? Song complexity should not occur. So this one is talking about when it should occur. This one is talking about when it should not occur. Okay, among birds in captivity, where this pressure is lower. Let me think for a second. Sorry. Okay. All right, so if you think of, I mean, you need to actually really understand this idea in order to get this right, okay? Think about it. So song complexity occurs when there is pressure to identify, right? And then what does the next sentence say? It should not occur among birds in captivity, but what's the definition of birds in captivity? The pressure is lower, right? So since we don't have much pressure here, it should not occur. That's what it's saying, right? So, I mean, based on this, we say this. That's why we should go with therefore here. It's not like the same kind of information. It's not like similarly or like a contrast, that kind of thing, right? So it's making this conclusion based on this fact, right? So this is the case, so it shouldn't occur in birds in captivity, right? So like this is like the rule, right? Presenting this as the rule. This is the rule, so that. Okay, this one is actually pretty pretty hard compared to other transition questions. Okay, so let's take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna go over math. Well, not me, but your math teacher.
자, 얘들아 반갑고 선생님은 안정록이라는 선생님이야. 여러분의 SAT 매스를 지금 봐주려고 왔고 선생님 이름이 뭐였죠? Matthew?
Mr. On.
Mr.
On.
You're on too? 그러면 What's your name?
Oh, Matthew.
Matthew. Okay. Yours?
Mine.
Yep.
You know.
Yuna? Okay. Okay. So you guys prefer to use English?
Yeah.
Okay. Even in math.
Yeah.
You guys learned math in English?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. 자, 그러면 which one first? We're doing two sets of questions, right? March 2020 first? Or which one's today? Which one's Monday's test?
March 20.
Okay, yeah, let's do that first. So, questions? Let's just get all the questions out first and then we'll move on one by one. 제가 어디 하나로 있는 게 낫나요? 어디쯤이 좋죠? 네? 보통? 여기서부터 이쪽으로? 여기서부터?
네, 다 제일
이쪽으로? 알겠어요. 그럼 여기다 쓰는 게 낫겠네요. Okay. So question from March 2020, section 3 and 4. 자, 옆에서. Section 3 and 4. Did you guys review all the questions? Or do you need time to review it?
Well, for me, I already went through them
Mm-hmm.
yesterday.
And everything's okay?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. And Yuna? Okay with the March one? Everything's okay? Sure? Okay. Good. Because, I mean, this lecture is only about this test. So if you guys are okay with it, we could go to the other one. Okay, let's go over to the next one. Today's questions. So how was today's one?
For me, it was a bit harder than the last one.
The last one? Okay. And section 3 and 4, questions.
11.
11 on section 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, 4.
Okay, 4.
Um, 25.
Section 425?
Yeah.
Okay.
And 26.
25, 26?
Yeah. And yeah,
That's it? Good. Okay, you should review and then I'll be just right back in a second.
education.
오늘 거 답지 있나요?
Education. 네. 비읍 받습니다. 비읍. 네. 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 네, 스프링할 때 스프링.
답 좀 부탁드릴게요. 오늘 거만. You know?
21.
21 on section 4. So Matthew, are you done? Done? 21's it? Okay. Okay, let's get started. So 11 in section 4. Could you read it, please, Matthew?
The initial investment of $1,000 with a constant annual interest rate for graphs.
자, okay, there. So what question is this about? Graphs. What kind of graphs?
Exponential.
Exponential, right? Okay. And it said initial investment of $1,000 is made at the constant annual interest rate. Constant annual interest rate. Does that mean exponential or linear?
Well, for the interest rates themselves are linear. They're linear. Well,
I mean, you could just say anything that you
Also-
think.
oh, it's just that's just the x value. So as it keeps like increasing, then the y value, which is the
Future value.
increases exponentially.
Yeah, it increases exponentially, okay. And it's saying that the initial investment is $1,000, okay. We're just catching on the important stuff while we read on, okay. So $1,000 is quite important, right? And next line.
The graphs above show the corresponding future value of V in dollars of investment for different annual interest rates are after 20 years.
Okay, so it says different annual interest rate are after 20 years. Okay, good. So it's just showing 20 years worth of data, right? Next.
One graph shows the value when the interest is compounded daily, and the other graph shows the value when the interest is compounded annually.
What does that mean?
So it means that one graph, the interest rate is increased daily. So like, what it means is that it's like instead of doing it like every year, like giving the money for
Interest rate,
it
yeah.
does it in
Interest.
pieces. It does it in pieces
By day, yeah.
But annually is that you just like give it back in 1 year.
So if we're just reading this question for the first time, so you would think that daily interest rate, daily compounded future value would be greater or smaller than the annual one?
It would probably be greater.
Because it has shorter term, right?
Sure.
And so it will grow exponentially more than the annual one. Annual will be slower. So the daily one will be faster, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So which of the following statement is true? So in every question, what would you think is the most important part of all the questions? Not this one particularly, but from all the questions, what do you think is the most important? Is it too vague?
Or you mean like
I want you guys just think about it. I know it's just a questionnaire. time, but this is very important.
What is it as? Like, what is it looking? What are you supposed to look for using?
Like, is it one type of sentence, or is it finding out the type of the question, or is it, what do you think? Like for all the questions, what is one thing that is the most important thing? You know, this question is for you too.
The information.
The information. Okay, the information are important, but what do you do with the information though? Is it the most important thing? Information is like one pathway to get to the most important thing. Yuna, do you have any thoughts?
The instruction.
Hmm?
The instruction, the question itself.
The
Question itself.
question itself, that
The instruction, like the question itself, like what it says.
I think you're saying what I'm thinking. So I call that the real question. It's very easy to find the real question in SAT math because it's always the last sentence. I mean, almost always. It's like 95%. The real question here is what?
Which of the following statements is true?
Statement is true. I think I'm saying that this is the most important thing because people tend to find something else, even though you just have to find, like, the question asks for A+1, but most students just like do all the things and then find A and then just say A is the question, A is the answer. Or in this case, what would other people do? They might find like false ones, not true ones. Okay? So true is very important here. So let's go over the answers. Answer choices. A. Matthew? A?
As R increases at a constant rate,
Mhm.
B increases more rapidly if interest is compounded annually rather than daily.
Ah. So this is saying that interest rate compounded annually increases more rapidly, right? Is that right? Yes? And Yuna? Is A right?
No, that's not right.
Is A right? Why?
Because if we look at the graph,
Hmm.
annually is lower, not lower, but below than the other one.
Yeah. The annual one is always below the daily one, right? So which one's growing rapidly, more rapidly?
Compounded
Daily. Well, why did you think that annually was more rapid?
No, that was. I actually didn't choose that as my answer.
Huh?
I was just a little bit confused.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I didn't actually choose it.
Okay. So, compounded annually is slower. That's what we talked about before. We were looking at the answer choices, right? Annually is slow because the interest rate is given after a year. But if we were given after a day, then it would grow by percent way more faster, right? Okay. So then B, Yuna?
Should I repeat it?
Yep.
As R increases at a constant rate,
Mm-hmm.
B increases more rapidly if interest is compounded daily rather than annually.
So this could be the answer, because it's right opposite to the A, but we should be just sure. So let's go on to the C. Matthew?
As R increases at a constant rate, the difference in interest compounded daily and interest compounded annually increases at a constant rate.
Ah, the difference. Does it? Does it increase at a constant rate?
Probably not.
Not, because? I'm just sensing that you guys, I don't know, because I mean, you not didn't say anything, but Matthew, are you completely sure on compound interest? Do we know the basic formula? If we say A as total accumulated, for here, like it will be future value, and then if we say P as the initial value, what's the equation?
1 plus 0.01 r.
0.01 R.
Or was it 0.01?
You could just say R as a percentage, yeah?
Just 1 plus
1 plus R and
to the power of t.
T as, what's T?
Time, year.
Time, year. Okay, that is very good, but many students get confused with this as year. But so in terms of this equation, R is rate per compound. Okay, this is very important. And T is number of times compounded. So, for example, if we say the initial value was $100 and the bank gives 5% annually, it would be easy, annually. And how much would be in 10 years? This is just an example. A very easy one. How much would it be? You guys have calculators, right? So what's the equation here?
100 times 1 plus 0.05 to the power of 10.
10. Good. So that makes?
100, around 160.
Okay, that's good. Then how about if we say 5% interest biannually? Biannually in 8 years.
Around 200.
What's the equation first?
100 times 1.05. Yeah, 0.05 to the power of 16.
60?
16.
16? You know? Which one's your equation? Is it the same? Oh, okay. So you guys think biannually means twice a year. If biannually means twice a year, does it mean once per 6 months? No. So let's go on to the words. So biannually means once per 2 years, because biannually means once per 2 years. It's biannual. What's bi for? 2. 2 years. So once 2 years, right? So, and how about semi-annually?
Per 6 months.
Yeah, this is 6 months, right? Okay, how about once per quarter? per 3 months. Okay. So, I mean, this comes up very rarely in SAT, but you guys should know it because every question counts, right? So, semi-annually means once per 6 months. Quarter means once per 3 months. So, what would this be?
4. No.
4.
Yeah, 4.
4, yeah. So, before you said T means just year. But in this case, why did you change it to 4?
Because it's by 2 years.
Mhm.
That means it will only be done
Compounded
compounded 4 times.
4 times. So that's why this T doesn't mean time in years or minutes or hours. It means the number of times compounded. Get it? Good. Then, how about R? This is it has to be another question. So, the bank gives you 10% annually, but compounded every 6 months. So after 10 years, how much would it be? I'm just not used to the chart. If anyone has the answer, the equation, we just need the equation. You could just say it.
Is it 100 times
100 times
1.1 divided by
1.1. Divide by 2?
yeah.
Divide by 2 over to the power of? How many times was it compounded for 10 years?
10 years.
20. So 20 is right because it's compounded every 6 months. So in 10 years, how many times? It'll be double. Did you get this? How about the rate? What did you get? 1.05%. But it's not percent, but it's 1.05. Why? You could just say anything that pops into your mind. Hmm? You. You're mistaken? So what will be the right one? 1? 1.1? Okay. But this is actually right. Because we are always just concerned about the number of times compounded or the rate when we get compounded. Right? That's the important part. So if we get the interest after first 6 months, how much would we get? Because it's 10% annually. After 6 months, how much would the bank give you? It would only give you 5%. So that is the rate for our compound interest rate equation. So always just be focused on the time when you get the interest. So if the bank says it's 10% annually, but they give you after 6 months, would they give you 10%? No. What would they give you?
5%.
The half. Because it's 6 months. I mean, banks are not that generous. So, okay, did you guys get it? So that's why I said the rate itself is not just percent. It's, oh, I rubbed it out. So it's the rate when you get compounded, okay? So that is important. So one more thing, and then, so we got the equation. So for the answer tree C, how does the compound interest work in graph? So if you have $100 initially, and let's just say $100 and then 50% interest every year. So the first year, after first year, how much would it be? $150, right? 150. And then after that, let's just say 1 is here, 2, 3. So first year, it's 150, and then
275.
so 250, 75. And then the third year, 275, 300, 350, 400.
Oh, I don't think the previous one was 200. I think it was 225.
225, yeah, that's right.
Next one.
And 200 and
37.
next one is 337.
37.
So this is how the exponential works, right? So let's go back to answer tree C. As R increases is a constant rate, the difference in the interest rate compounded per daily and interest rate annually increases. So it's just saying that both increases at a constant rate, right? But how does the difference work? So the difference from the 0 to first is 50, and then the next one was 75, right? And then the next one was? What was it, 320?
337.
37.5. So the difference is here bigger, right? I mean, we don't have to calculate everything. So the difference actually goes bigger by every step, okay? So C is wrong also. It increases exponentially, okay? And then D, you know?
If R equals 15% and interest is compounded annually, so $1,000 investment will be worth $20,000 after 20 years.
Okay, now you guys have the equation. What's the equation here? Initial amount is 1,000, and the rate is 1.15, right? And then the year is 20 years. This is just annually, so you guys should just put in the numbers right away. And have you ever calculated this one?
No. Oh.
Calculators?
16,360.
It's 16,000?
Yeah.
360? Okay, so that's wrong. So B, as R increases at a constant rate, V increases more rapidly, V meaning the Y, more rapidly, like this, if interest is compounded daily rather than annually, okay? That's because, you know, this is the number compounded, right? Number of times compounded. If it's daily, it'll be way higher than annually. It's actually 365 times higher than annually. So it's way bigger. I mean, the graph is actually not that accurate. It'll be way, way bigger than the annual. Okay? Any questions for this one? 11? Okay? Okay. 21. Yuna. Could you read the question?
In the figure above, X is a mark on the side of the tire of a car at rest.
Hmm.
Car starting from the rest will experience an acceleration for some period of time. Which of the following graphs will represent the distance between the mark X and the ground after the car starts to accelerate and the tire makes its first few revolutions?
So, whose question was this? Okay. Matthew, how did you solve it?
Well, I first kind of knew like what kind of graph it would be.
Mm-hmm. You knew?
Yeah, based on the information.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be kind of
So what kind of information did you look at?
it's so the diagram itself and the information says that there's a X mark on the tire,
Mm-hmm.
so that when the tire like it keeps going,
Mm-hmm.
then the X would have a certain distance to the ground, and then
So the initial distance, right?
yeah,
Initial distance is important for every graphs, especially linear equations, but for this one. So it says X is marked on the side of the tire of the car at rest. The car, starting from the rest, will experience an acceleration for some period of time. Which of the following graph could represent the distance between the X and the ground, right? So we're looking at the X and the ground. So if we just say, so if the Y is 0, what does that mean in this situation?
it's in contact with the ground.
Yeah, it's on the floor. If the point is here, it just means X is on the floor. And then what will be the maximum height?
The highest point on the tire.
On the tire, right? So that's what we're looking at on y-axis. Okay? The height of the tire. Yeah, and then height of the X on the tire. Okay? And so between the mark X and the ground, after car starts to accelerate the tire, and the tire makes the first few revolutions. Okay. So does it start on the top?
Yeah.
Where does it say that?
In the figure.
The figure. Okay. So X starts on the top. So the graph should be starting from the top. So answer choice B would be gone. And then, Matthew?
It will experience acceleration.
Mm-hmm. So did you get that acceleration part? So if you accelerate, what does that mean? Faster. So it's getting faster, right? So getting faster means you go further in shorter distance. That's why if this is time, so regularly the tire would move something like this. Right? Because it moves, if it's just moving on a constant speed, it will just go down. It will go down actually. But it's a circle, so it's going to go down like this and then come up like this. But if it's moving rapidly as the time goes, because it's accelerating, would this be more? How would this move? How would this graph move? shorter if it's more faster. So it'll be like Matthew. Is that okay? Is that right?
Yeah.
So answer choice C is very, very funny because it's saying that the time is going back, right? So C is gone. How about, so did you write D? Yeah. Oh, you got B?
So it was either A or B.
You were what?
I chose B.
B. Ah, okay. So that's so you got the acceleration part right, but you just didn't see the starting point. Okay. Then it was an easy question. Okay. Any question on this one? You're okay? Good? Okay. And what was the next question? I erased it. 25. Okay. 25. So 25. Whose question was this?
Mine.
Okay. Let's read it.
2 independent surveys asked random samples of 500 people about the distances they commute to work each day.
Okay, there. So if we were just reading this one for the first time, what would you guys think up to reading this part, up to here? So this question is about survey, which is in a bigger concept. It's a stat question, right? It's a statistic question. And then it's asking, it's talking about surveys. So you guys should be thinking about what's important in surveys. Do you know the keywords? Sample. One most important thing in surveys, it's random sampling. Sampling. What is random sampling?
You randomly choose people out of the population.
Because?
To get like a unbiased response.
That's right. So it's about, is it biased or not? But random sampling, if you do better random sampling, it's more accurate. And if you do less random sampling, like for example, if you want to know if Seoul people likes ice cream, but you did the survey in Baskin Robbins, is that a good survey?
No.
Is it biased?
Yeah.
Because?
You went to an ice cream shop.
To survey about the ice cream.
Yeah.
So that's not an example of random sampling. So if you want to do random sampling, what would you do in Seoul?
You just ask people on the street.
Any streets?
Anywhere. Like,
It shouldn't be anywhere, it should be everywhere. Like if you divide into few sections, it should be randomly picked. Okay? Okay, so that's the important part of the survey. So you guys should be thinking about this while you're reading this question. Okay, next, the results.
the results of the survey are detailed in the table below.
Okay, so if you're reading this part and then the table, what is this about?
Daily commuting distance.
Yeah, but it's in mathematical terms, it's more about means and standard deviations, right? Okay. So what is mean and standard deviation then?
Mean is the average.
Average. And standard deviation is? Guys, don't know about the standard deviation. You know? What is standard deviation? Not the what? Okay, let's do the statistics part. So there's few things: mean, median, mode, range, and then standard deviation. So what's mean?
Average.
average, which is, what is average?
Um, the oh, how do you the sampling number? No. What do you call the?
Just data.
Yeah, the data number. Something.
So the sum of all data over
The number of people.
number of data, right? That's average. What about median?
It's the data point in between, right in the middle of.
Yeah, mid number.
Yeah.
So it's the mid data. Right in the middle. If the number of data is odd number, it'll be the one right in the middle. But if it's an even number, how'd you get the median?
You get the two numbers that are in the middle and you divide that by two.
Yeah, so average of the two middle data. That's the median, okay? So what about mode?
The most frequent.
Right, the most frequent data. The most frequent data. So for example, what is most frequent data? So if you have like SAT scores, so one student is 600, 700, 700, 800, and 750. So which one's the mode? 700, because it came out twice. Okay, this is mode. What about range?
It's the difference between the highest data point and the lowest data point.
Yep, max to minimum. Okay, and the standard deviation is how much it deviated from the mean. Okay, there's a lot of mathematical equation in the standard deviation, but you guys don't have to know it right now. For the SAT 1, the concept of standard deviation means how much the data are deviated. How much is it spread out from the mean? This is important, from the mean, okay? So, for example, Class A have students scoring, let's say 600 to 800, 400. SAT scores are, they have 5 students, 600 score, 5 people. Few of them are here like this. And then if the Class B has same number of students, but has more 800s and 700s, but less 600s. Which one has bigger standard deviation? It has the same mean. Which one has bigger standard deviation? B, because it's a lot more people. More people are on the side. So the data is more spread out away from the mean, right? And this one is more closer to mean. So this one has bigger standard deviation, okay? That's all you need to know from SAT 1. So which of the statement is true? So what is this part? The real question part, right? Which statement is true based on the results of these surveys? Yeah. Okay. So it has the same standard deviations, right? Survey A and Survey D. But it has different means. Okay. So answer choice A, Matthew?
There's a greater variation in the distribution of distances people commute to work in survey.
Does it say that?
What?
Is A right? So it's saying there is a greater variation in the distribution of the distance people commute to work in survey A?
Yes.
Yes, because?
Because the standard deviation, when you subtract it with the mean, it's greater than, for A it's greater than.
No, standard deviation is just showing how much it deviated from.
No, it didn't.
So it's actually the standard, if the standard deviation is same, the variation is same too. But it just has a different mean. So it's like this. So A has mean on 13.9 and B has 15.1. So the variation, standard deviation is same, so the variation is actually the same. But it's just on another data, on another level, okay? So A is wrong, B is?
There's a greater variation in distribution of the distances people commute to work in survey B.
So it has to be same, okay? It has to be same, not greater. You can't compare because the standard deviation is the same, okay? What about C?
The variation in distribution of distances people commute is the same in both surveys.
Okay, so this is why they have standard deviation. So C is right. How about D?
It is impossible to determine the variation in distribution of the distances people commute because the means are different.
Okay, so it's just, this question itself is just asking you, do you know standard deviation? Okay, so variation of the, in the distribution of the survey is standard deviation, okay? How much it varied from the mean, okay? Yuna, did you get this right? Because you knew this standard deviation? Okay, that's good. So so C is right, okay? Okay, C. Then what was the next question? 26, okay, 26. Whose question was this? Okay, could you read it?
During the Ice Age, the average annual global temperature was at least 4 degrees Celsius lower than the modern average.
Mm-hmm.
If the average annual temperature of an ice age is y degrees Celsius and the modern average annual temperature is x degrees Celsius, which is the following message.
So, what question is this about? What is this about?
It's about
Inequalities, right? So it's saying that during Ice Age temperature was
at least 4 degrees lower than the modern average.
4 degrees modern temperature minus 4 degrees at least. So how would you say that?
Less equal or less.
So which where?
Yeah.
That way. At least, right? So you should be able to write this equation when you're reading the first sentence, okay? And if the average annual temperature of an ice age is y, oh, this is the question. Okay, if this is y, it should be x minus 4. Yeah, so what was the question here?
I was just
What did you get confused?
I was like choosing between
Mm-hmm.
C and D. I was getting confused because like it was talking about like lower than and least, because usually the questions I was more familiar with was when it's like least and like most. I think. So I initially chose C, but I changed it to D later. But I didn't get a chance to check it, but well, at least I know.
But this, okay, D is the right choice, right?
Yeah.
So when you're with this inequalities questions, you should just think, which one's smaller? Which one should be smaller? It's Ice Age, right? It's Ice Age. if you say that this is hotter, then we won't be here, right? We won't even need to do the SAT. We should be like digging ice and hunting or something. So really, inequalities, just think about, just move away and look at the big picture and think which one should be smaller. Which one should be bigger then? So, modern time should be bigger. So then this should be on this side. Okay? How did you get this right? What was your way of solving this question?
I just had it that I think it will be older, so it's gonna be somewhere around usually.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's at least 4 degrees lower, so -4.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how you really do it. Okay. Just think about which one should be bigger and should be smaller. Okay. Then you won't get confused. Then the last question, right? Which one's the last question? Oh, was this it?
Yeah.
Did you have any more questions? Okay, that's good. Okay, if you guys have any more questions personally or anything, you could come to the office and then ask me. Okay, good luck on the next exam. Thanks. Good job.
죄송합니다. 감사합니다. Okay, so let's finish up the writing section. So starting from 34 to 44. Questions. 40. And? That's it? That's it? Really? You guys, really? I think you have more, no?
Exactly, short of
42?
42.
I mean, are these all the ones that you marked? This is it? All right, so let's take a look at 40. So this is a sentence structure question. So what do we want to do? Identify the subject, verb, and conjunction, right? Whenever we get a sentence structure question, that's what we do. She estimates that. Okay, so this is a game changer, though. Because if you have a that, it means that you're going to have another clause. You're going to have a relative clause after that, right? Which means you're going to be seeing another subject and verb after this, right? So identifying problems faster, right? So this is probably the subject with timely crop data and using less with blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is going to be the prepositional phrase, and then we have the verb here, right? Will save her tens of thousands of dollars in future years. And then, so that's it. So basically, we have a complete sentence, right? So what we have is this, and then I have this, considerably more, right? So now I'm going to explore my options, right? Okay, so let's just check if we have a subject and verb here, okay? So considerably more than the $7,000 she paid for the drone and any... Okay, well, first of all, there is no subject and verb. It's just considerably more. That's what it's saying. It doesn't have a subject and a verb. So A is wrong. This can't be a standalone sentence. It's not an independent clause. So A is wrong. What about B? So B is possible. We can do. Why? Because, okay, so when it comes to dashes, what do we need to remember? The two things that you need to remember when it comes to dashes is, first, it could either function as a colon or a semicolon, and another thing is there needs to be a comma splice. And I mean, it can be used as sort of a comma splice, a little bit more informal than comma splices, but something like this. In this case, it would be used like this. So basically, it's saying, hey, treat this as a colon, right? Treat this as a colon, and that would be good. It's okay. We can do that. What about this? Okay, so if we go with C, then this would be this, right? We have another clause here, which would make this incorrect. Why? Because simple. You just have another comma here, and then you do this. So it's a run-on sentence. So not this one. And of course, we need a clause after a semicolon, but we don't have that. So that's gone also. So that's why it's B. Let's take a look at 42. So this one is just a word choice question. So it has to do with your diction. So nowadays, actually, they have a little bit more, they have more word problems actually nowadays. Word problems meaning they have more diction questions, like ever since like last year. compared to the 2018 and 2017 tests. 2019 and 2020, they have a little bit more vocabulary questions, which means, I mean, they're trying to, that's openly trying to handicap international students. Because, you know, like usually when it comes to diction, it's you can't really study for it. Anyway, but what can we do? All right, so well, this is asking for a verb, right? It's asking for a verb. So I'm just gonna look at the subject and object, right? Objections to drones may be blanked with regulations. Oh, okay. So I don't have an object. It's not a transitive verb. It's an intransitive verb, right? So objections may be blanked with regulations. Okay, so that's what I'm going for. So objections may be blanked with regulations. So using regulations, that's what I mean, right? So using regulations, we can blank objections. Using regulations, we can engage objections. No. Okay, so the answer here is address. Okay, what does it mean to address something? So to address, if you're addressing someone, okay, so this is different. So if you're addressing a person, what does that mean? You're talking to that person, or you're calling someone something, or that's addressing a person, right? But aside from that, you address you can think of this word as deal with, or yeah, deal with seems like the best way to describe it. So if you address an issue, it means you deal with an issue. Does it mean you solved it though? No. Okay? So if you address a problem, yeah, you recognize the fact that there is a problem and you try to deal with it, you try to solve it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you solved it, right? You're just dealing with it, right? Okay, so like you might have solved it, but I don't know, like just by that alone. But anyway, here, objections could be addressed. So you could address the objections. You could deal with the objections using regulations. That's what it wants to say here. So B is the right answer. I don't need to go over these words, right? Okay, so we're done with the writing section. I don't know. I don't know why you guys, really? You guys are that good? Yeah, okay. We'll see on Friday. We'll see on Friday. Guys, so do you know which questions you got wrong on the writing section? Did you guys check?
I know I got all the convention expression.
Yes, conventional expression. Conventional expression is, so it includes diction words, and it also includes like prepositions. Like, does this preposition go along with this word, kind of thing, right? So that's. So yeah, I saw your score. So all the questions you got wrong is conventional expression. Actually, that's really good. That's what we were hoping for, right? I mean, no, I'm not saying, like, I'm not focusing on what you got wrong. I'm focusing on the fact that you got everything else right. That's the best you can hope for. So good job. Like, it's not sarcasm. It's not sarcasm. I mean it. Good job. Was that the first time you did it, or no? First time getting everything right except conventional expression questions?
Not sure.
Okay. Well, fine. All right, so let's take a look at the second passage, okay? Well, okay. we have like 45 minutes left, so I don't want to go into like one of the harder passages. I feel like third, fourth, fifth, considerably harder than the second one. Okay, so when this is okay. So did you guys try to speed up when you were reading the second passage on the test? How did that work out? How did it work out? You know. Oh, you finished it faster than last time, but you still ran out of time on the test. But last time you didn't run out of time, right?
Last time I was able to finish history faster.
Uh-huh. So you finished everything last time, didn't you?
Yeah, but I finished history within 9 minutes last time.
Okay. Did you try reading this passage faster?
Yeah,
Oh, you did? How did that feel?
pretty good.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's good that you felt good, but I mean, did you have any difficulty solving the questions, or it's fine, right? So it should be fine. Okay, so keep doing that. So especially, but there are some relatively more difficult social science passages. And you should be able to recognize that. It's pretty easy. Like you're reading it and then it has a little bit more information, or it's a little bit more complicated. Usually a sign that social science passage could be potentially a little bit more difficult is the opinion. Does the passage have an opinion, or is it just informative? Okay, so that should be the difference. I'm not saying all opinionated social science passages are difficult, but I'm saying most of the difficult social science passages, they're opinionated. So that should be a sign. Okay, so that should be a sign for you, not to be like, oh, it's the difficult social. No, it's actually good for you if you get a difficult social science passage. It means the other passages are relatively easier according to that. That's actually a good test. Like you could do really well. You could potentially ace that test. You know what I mean, right? The science, like the gap isn't. They need to make up for that. Well, anyway. So when you feel that a social science passage is difficult, I'm not saying that just to be like, hey, oh, okay, fine, I'll give up or whatever. I mean. You need to recognize that it's okay to spend more time in this case if it's difficult, okay? But you should be able to recognize that. Let's take a look. Extremist politics debating the nuts and bolts. Okay, so so it's talking about politics. Nuts and bolts. What does it mean? Like, this is an idiomatic saying, but it's good if you know this. What do you mean, the nuts and bolts of something? Matt? What does that mean?
Like the fundamentals.
Yeah, the fundamentals, or the very, like, if you discuss I mean, as opposed to just discussing the gist of it, the nuts and bolts is you get into details, you get in pretty deep, and you talk about the very, like you said, building blocks. Because, you know, when you're building furniture or whatever, you know, these are the very fundamentals that hold it up, right? Okay. Voters need to understand. Okay, so whenever you have a need, okay, so what I forgot to go over this yesterday. Or did I? Anyway, do you guys remember sufficient condition and necessary condition? You don't. You don't, right? Okay. All right. Why don't you guys write this down? Okay. If A, then B. Right. So this is like the most basic conditional statement, right? How do we write this? I said we're gonna do this, right?
Oh,
Huh?
yeah.
Yeah, you guys remember this? Yeah, if A, then B. So, and then I said this is the sufficient condition, and this is the necessary condition. You guys remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we know? Why are we so crazy about this sufficient and necessary condition? Well, actually, like this is like almost everything when it comes to logic. Okay, think about this. All right, so this is what does it mean to communicate? What does it mean to actually talk, express an idea, that kind of thing? Like, what exactly is an idea? Like, when we talk about ideas, like, okay, like, you know that a sentence is made up of a subject and a predicate, right? The predicate, have you guys heard of the predicate? Okay, you know, like, we have this, right? The verb is the predicate in this case. Okay, subject, verb, object, that this is the predicate, right? Whatever does. So, like, talking, like, okay, in any given language, okay, you don't need to write this down. In any given language. No, you don't. In any given language, there's always a subject, right? That's how people talk. People say, hey, the subject verbs. Right? That's usually how people talk. Or the subject verbed the object, right? That's how everybody talks, right? What is that? What's happening exactly? So you're taking two distinct ideas, and you're trying to put it together, right? The subject, verbs, right? So just like the very basic of an idea is you put two things together, right? And you see the relationship, or you see some kind of thing that's going on between the two things, and you express that into an idea. That's what communication is, right? I mean, you can make a more complex one by combining more ideas, right? But it's like a coming together of concepts coming together. That's what communication essentially is. So if you like, this is like an essential part when it comes to communication, like the conditional statements. Well, what if I say if A then B, what am I actually saying? Like if you want to actually draw this, I'm saying this. This is what I'm telling you, right? This is if A then B. Do you see that? So if it's A, it's always going to be B, right? But does that mean like but there are some exceptions so there are some B's that are not A's, but all A's are B's. That's what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say, right? And so we get from this the contrapositive. Contrapositive being what? This we talked about, right? If not B, then not A. Do you guys remember this? Yeah, so this is really important because especially in difficult history passages, they're gonna force you to make this inference. Okay? So what's not true? This is not true, okay? You can't do this. The only thing that you can infer is the contrapositive if you have a conditional statement, right? So these are things that we talked about. You guys remember this, right? All right, so what I want to talk about right now, though, is something different. Okay, I want to talk about different ways to express this in the English language. How do we express this? Okay, so the most basic thing, the one we talked about just now, if A then B, right? This is the easiest one. Is there any other way to express this? Try and express this in your own language. What kind of words would you use? So like I said, I'm saying this, right?
Like an example?
No. Okay, so I'll just tell you guys, okay? So if I use the word the only, okay, if you can't understand this, it's fine. But you need to memorize this though. You need to know. It helps you immensely if you know this. The only A is B. So it's the same thing. The only A is B. Okay? A only if B. Okay, so an easy way to think about this is if you see the word only without a the part that follows only is going to be the necessary condition. But the part that follows the only is going to be the sufficient condition. Okay? That's an easy way to think about it, okay? I mean, what else? Okay, unless and without, right? Not A unless B. Not A without B. So these are, I'm saying these are all this. It's all this. It's the same thing, okay? Or you can do something like this. So whenever you see the word need, what does this mean? It means it's necessary, right? Necessary. So if I say something is necessary, you need to think about necessary condition. Okay, so voters need to understand the prosaic details of complex policies. So you say, hey, we need to do this, right? It's necessary. If we don't have this, what else? Well, he doesn't give us like a sufficient condition, but he's just saying, we need to do this. Probably always, right? So what happens if we don't? Well, I don't know that he's not exactly talking about the consequences, but he's saying, yeah, this just is necessary all the time, right? We need this, right? In order to A, B. Or, I mean, sometimes you can have like a must or need here. Okay, anyway. So this is a sufficient and necessary conditions. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at this passage. Okay, so now this one is just talking. Okay, why is that important? Because like when you're writing a passage, if you like, why would you write a passage? Why would you write something to begin with? It's usually like surprisingly like for most of the cases. You want to say that something is necessary. That's why you would write something to begin with, right? So necessary, if the author says something is necessary, it's always pretty important for us, right? And they gave that to us right away. They need to understand the prosaic details. What does prosaic mean? No. No. So this means uninspired. What do I mean uninspired? Okay, so as opposed to what? Like, as opposed to, okay, so imagine this. You're reading poetry versus you're reading a case book, like related to law. Which one do you think is more prosaic? The case book, right? The prose itself, it's not colorful, right? It's not emotional. It's not fun. It's really dry, tedious. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's what prosaic is. Okay, so they need to understand like really like the nitty-gritties. Like you wouldn't be happy reading about those, right? About you. do you think this is inspiring, like reading about policies? I mean, for some people it might, but I'm saying relative to like something regarding humanities or something like that, right? Anyway, so they need to understand that. So an understanding is necessary. And then it says, most have staked out positions on these issues, but they are not often reasoned positions. Oh, okay. So people have positions, right? So the first idea that we have is they need to understand, let's just say understand policies, right? They need to be able to understand policies, right? But usually, okay, what happens? They, what does it mean staked out positions on these issues? They already have a position, right? So most people have a position, but they're not reasoned. So people, it's pretty unreasonable. People have unreasonable positions, that's what it's saying, right? Which take hard intellectual work. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have a reasoned position, right? Like you're informed in all matter, you know what the policy is going to be about, that kind of thing. I mean, that's pretty hard, right? Most citizens opt instead for simplistic explanations. All right, so in this paragraph, I need to spend some time reading this. Don't feel bad spending too much time on the first paragraph, especially when you're reading a social science passage. You need to get this thing clear, okay? You want to understand what's about to happen. Like the fast reading part comes usually after the first paragraph. I mean, you could start reading fast if the title just gives a cause and effect away or something like that, right? But right now, I'm just trying to take everything in. What's a contrasting idea that's presented in the first paragraph? I have simplistic understanding versus like reasoned position, right? And this goes along with like the intellectual work, complex, this is assume wrong, this is actually comprehending. So this contrast is what the author wants to point out, right? And what is this? You guys remember this? This is this is people's expectation, but this is what's real. They assume wrongly that they comprehend the nuances of issues, right? So they think they understand it, right? They think they understand it, but they actually don't, right? And I mean, I don't want to say this is expectation and this is reality, actually. It's actually kind of separate. But the idea that you should get is, okay, I have two contrasting ideas. That's how you should take information in, right? If you just try to look at the words and you're trying to just brute force your way, understand it without any kind of frame, it's not going to stick with you, right? So how you take that information in is like this, right? Okay, so on one hand, people think they have like, they have a rather simplistic understanding. People have a simplistic understanding and they're not well informed, but they think they comprehend everything. But this is actually what you need. You need to understand stuff. So people are dumb. That's pretty much what it's trying to say in the first paragraph, right? Okay, so let's go. Psychological scientists have a name for this easy, automatic, simplistic thinking. The illusion of explanatory depth. Okay, IED. Let's say it's IED, right? IED. What's IED? I mean, the easy, automatic, simplistic thinking. Okay, that's good. That's good. Now that we have a name, we can just treat it like just this word, right? So this is the simplistic thinking. We strongly believe, oh, what is this? It's the author's position, right? So what's the author's position? We understand complex, oh, no, it's not the author's, sorry. No, it's not the author's position. It's just talking about us in general, like people. People believe that we understand complex matters when in fact we are clueless. Again, that expectation versus reality, right? What's that expectation? The expectation is that we understand. But what's real? We're clueless. We don't know. Right? And these false and extreme beliefs shape our preferences, judgments, and actions, including our votes. So this affects something, right? So it affects everything, like our beliefs. No. False and extreme beliefs shape our preferences, judgments, actions. Yeah, okay. So your opinions on stuff and also your votes. But I think this passage is more concerned about voting, right? Because it opened up with the word voters and stuff like that. So I'm just going to say, okay, so this affects voting, right? This has an effect. The simplistic thinking has an effect on voting, right? All right, so let's go to the next paragraph then. So we have that simple idea so far that people have a simplistic understanding of the policies. They don't really know the complex nuances, and that affects their voting, right? But people still think they're smart, that kind of thing, okay? Is it possible to shake such deep-rooted convictions? Okay, there we go. Now we're in business, right? Now everything that we read is background, and this is the question that's going to be guiding where we go from here, okay? So what's the question? Can we change that, right? Can we change this? Can we influence this, okay? So that's the question. Can we change IED, right? That's the question Philip P.F., a psychological scientist at the University of Colorado, blah, 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 wanted to explore. Okay, that's easy. All right, so now we're in familiar territory, right? So what is this question? Can we change IED? So what's this part? Well, you need to understand IED. That's why they bothered mentioning this in the first place. Now that you understand it, let's talk now, right? So PF was trying to answer this question and then wondered if forcing people to explain complex policies in detail might force them to confront their ignorance and thus weaken their extremist stance. Okay, so this is his process, right? Okay, so his process, so you can, I told you last time also, you can make a choice here. You can skip it, or if you're pretty sure of the structure of the passage and you feel like you're not gonna forget all the important stuff, you can read it. You can read the process, but not so thoroughly though. Don't spend like an equal amount of time reading the process as you do reading the first and second paragraph, right? So just anyway, well, do you know the answer to this, by the way? Because some passages give it away right in the beginning, right? It turns out that it is possible to shake such deep-rooted convictions, right? Sometimes passages begin with that. What about this passage? Did it give us an answer? No, it did not. So that's what you should be curious about. Can we change the IEDs? That's what you should be curious about. That's what you're going to be looking for. So if you choose to skip this process, you can go down, look for the result, see if they change their belief, or that thing, right? So you're just saying, hey, so what's the process? You go up to people and you're like, hey, explain this policy for me in detail. And then they'd be like, I don't know. Do you think differently about this issue? Right. That now that you know you're stupid, that's what they're doing. Right. Okay. Blah blah blah. Right. Whatever. Okay. I don't know. It's all process, right? I mean, whatever, right? I don't care. I don't really care. I just, what you want to be careful though is you don't want to skip some of the results. So be careful as to not skip the results. Because sometimes you see a result like hidden at the bottom or towards the bottom or something like that. So just make sure you don't skip that. Are we skipping anything? If you say but for example, okay, I hate for example, blah blah blah. They were not asked. Okay, so it's all process. We can be sure of it, so we can skip it. Okay, and then it says, let's be honest. Most of us never do this. Okay, so we don't do this. Okay, what is this? Well, I don't know. I didn't read. Okay, so I mean. If this becomes an issue, I can go back and just check what this is, but I can just go on. F's idea was that such an exercise would force many to realize how little they really know, right? Okay, so that was his idea, right? This was his idea. Do we know if this is true or not? No, I don't know yet. I don't know. I don't know if people realized how stupid they are and confronted with their own ignorance, and they would dampen their own enthusiasm. Okay, this was his idea, that people would change. They would be humbled and take less extreme positions. This was his idea. And that's just what happened. Okay, there we go. So now it's confirmed, right? So people's ideas change, right? So what's the result? Can we change IED? Yes, we can change it, right? So what did he do? He forced them to explain. Right? Forced to explain. So if you force them to explain, how do you feel? Dumb. Okay? So you feel dumb, and then you change position. Well, it's not necessarily change position, but to a less extreme version of your position, right? And that's just what happened. Trying and failing to explain, blah, 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 they became more moderate. Okay, so same thing, right? More moderate. I don't care. Right, let's go. Being forced to articulate the nuts and bolts of a policy is not the same as trying to sell that policy. Okay, so now, I mean, we have our answer that we want. Now I want to pay close attention to the passage again, because I have no idea where this passage can go from here. I already got the answer that I wanted. I so dearly wanted the answer to this question, and I got it. What now, right? I don't know. Let the passage tell us what to do, okay? Being forced to articulate the nuts and bolts is not the same as trying to sell that policy. In fact, talking about one's views can often strengthen them. Okay, so talking about it can actually strengthen it. This is, well, okay, so this is something new, actually, right? This is not what we talked about. F believed it's the slow cognitive work that changes people's judgments, but he wanted to check this in another. Okay, so we have one more. We have another experiment. So this was PF1, and then we have PF2, right? So in PF2, he wanted to check what? Talking about an issue, does that strengthen, right? So you talk about an issue, and does that strengthen your view? This one was very similar to the first, but some volunteers, instead of explaining, merely listed reasons for liking it. Results were clear. Okay, so here we go. Those who simply listed their reasons, blah, 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 were less shaken in their views. Okay, so this, less shaken, okay? They continued to think they understood the policies and their complexity, and notably, they remained extreme in their passion. Okay, there you go. So, if you just listed the reasons, okay, so let's do this. Okay, so something like this. If you're forced to explain it, you could change. But if you don't explain something, you're just asked for the reasons, list reasons, then you're not likely to change. That's what it comes down to, right? Like in a nutshell. This was the first experiment. This was the second one, right? Polarization tends to reinforce itself. People are unaware of their own ignorance. Okay, so what is this doing? This is just explaining to us why this thing happens to begin with, right? Why this thing happens at all. Polarization. What does polarization mean? Polarize something. What is that?
On the opposite ends.
Yeah, but polarization, what does that mean then?
State of being on the opposite ends.
Okay, so we talked about like extreme beliefs and stuff like that. So polarization would be forcing people to be more extreme here, like making people, I mean, in this case, like just becoming more extreme, right? Tends to reinforce itself. People are unaware of their own ignorance and they seek out information that bolsters their views. Okay, so you're just biased, right? You're just looking for information that bolsters your view, and often without knowing it. They also process new information in biased ways. So people are just biased. Hang out with people like themselves. All these psychological forces increase political extremism. Okay, so this is why people become extreme, right? And no simple measure will change that. But forcing the candidate to provide concrete and elaborate plans might be a start. It gives citizens a starting place. Okay, so this is like the implication, right? So if you force them to explain and that kind of thing, the complex matters, then people probably could change their views. Okay, so that's it's a pretty simple passage. Like at the very heart of it is this, right? So the idea is people are stupid. Like that was the first two paragraphs, right? People are dumb. They think they know the nuances of policies, but they don't. They don't know all the complex details. They think they comprehend it, but they don't. Can we change this? And then experiment number 1 was, if we force them to explain it, they're likely to change it. But if we don't force them to explain it, but just tell them, hey, tell me a reason why you like this policy, then it's not going to change their beliefs. And actually, in the last paragraph, they explain it and say they could become more extreme by their biased behaviors. Okay, so let's take a look at 11, a central idea. Okay, so do you guys remember this? The difference between a central idea and the central idea? So the central idea is much more restrictive, meaning there's only going to be one answer, one possible answer for the central idea, the central claim. Why? I mean, because that's like the main idea. It's not going to be multiple the means it's just referring to one. What about a central idea though? You can be a lot more lenient with this. So you just need to, I just told you guys before, you just need to do a true-false test. Okay? Just check if each of the answer choices is true or false. If it's true, it's the answer. All other answer choices are going to be false. So you're going to get one true answer and 3 false answer choices, right? So A says, articulating the reasons for holding an opinion can cause people to decide articulating the reasons for holding an opinion? No, it's not the reasons, right? You need to actually explain that position in great detail, right? So process of describing an issue in detail. There we go. This is the explain thing, right? Can make people more moderate. There we go, right? That's exactly what we've read, right? That was from experiment number 1, right? Okay, so a confusing point for this question could be this. Like, see, most people are not truly interested in understanding complex issues because you kind of remember reading most people in the first paragraph. But in the first paragraph, if you remember, it's not that most people are not interested in that. They're just misled, right? They just believe that they know, but actually they don't, right? So It's B here. 12, main focus. Okay, so main focus, if you can't identify, if you're having trouble with this question, it means you're not looking at the passage in a proper light. You need to look at the passage with a particular frame of mind, but you're not doing that. Okay. Let's take a look at A. Discussion of a long-standing problem. Potentially, okay, potentially that's a problem, right? People are stupid. Voters need to understand stuff, but they suck, right? So it could be a problem. A report that discredits okay, so I did not see any previous attempts to address a problem, right? In that case, I would have a big box, right? Highlighting that previous attempt. I don't have any old and new, that kind of thing. Be an introduction of a phenomenon. Why? Yeah, of course, right? People are stupid, that being the phenomenon, right? To a description of experiments. Yeah, we described experiments concerning that phenomenon, and then to a recommendation based on the results of the experiments. This is the very last sentence, the recommendation, right? So this is good. What about C? Explanation of no, we did not have two competing theories, right? We did have this contrast, but it's not a competing theory. It's not prove one false and that kind of thing. D, an observation of a trend. Okay, fine. We'll say it's a trend. To an analysis of its causes. Well, we don't know why it happens. We're just trying to see if that actually is the case. 13, okay, illusion. All right, so I mean, you guys know what an illusion is, and where does it say here? The illusion of explanatory depth. Okay, so this was the expectation versus reality, right? That's the illusion. The illusion is you think you know, but actually, right? Expectation versus reality. You think you know it, but you don't, right? You think you understand the complex parts of it, but you don't, right? It's that illusion. So misconception here, right? Okay, 14, shape. Let's take a look at 13, shape. 2, 3. Okay, extreme beliefs. So it's saying something like this: beliefs shape preferences, right? Beliefs shape preferences. Okay, beliefs. Yeah, I mean, okay. So your belief is going to make your preference, right? It's going to mold your preference. 15. The main purpose of the fourth paragraph. Okay, fourth paragraph where it's 26 to 42. 26. All right, 26. All right, so this is just process, right? It's just describing the process. It's so easy, right? So I'm just going to say, I'm just going to look for process, right? It's not supporting anything. It's not defending the need. Is it outlining the specifics? Yes. Yeah, specifics of an experiment. Yes. Process. Discuss the complexity. No, it's not saying it's complex. We know this. Come on, right? 16. The passage implies that when conducting his lab work, F would have been most surprised by which finding? Okay, so he would have been surprised by something. Okay, so this is like a hypothetical question, right? So it's not saying that these scenarios happened in the passage. It's saying, like, okay, if this were the case, he would be the most surprised. So surprised meaning it would go against his expectations, right? So I remember a part where we read about F's hypotheses, right? He guessed about certain things, right? He said, and then they confirmed it. They said, hey, that experiment actually proved it, right? So here's his idea, right? his idea was that exercise would force many to realize how little they really know. Right? And then they would be humbled and then take less extreme positions. This is his idea, right? So what would most surprise him? That it's the complete opposite of this, or something like that. That would surprise him, right? If people don't realize what they know, and they become more extreme, or I don't know, something like that, right? Okay, so let's take a look. A says no link was found. Okay, no link was found. Complexity and the strength of the volunteers. Well, this is talking about something completely different, right? We're not saying there's he didn't say that there's a correlation between the strength of the volunteers' positions and the complexity. This is just a correlation that's not mentioned, right? B, after volunteers were asked to analyze blah, 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 their understanding of it, well, we don't care about their understanding. We only care if they change their position to less extreme views, right? So this is, the understanding bit is not relevant to us. When volunteers were asked to list their reasons, their views were generally unaffected. Okay, well, this one, this is his second experiment, and then this is actually the result for his second experiment, right? So not this one. D, when volunteers were asked questions about complex issues, those with the most extreme views were found to have the best overall understanding of them. Okay, so this is actually going to surprise him a lot. Why? Because what did he want to do? He wanted the extreme people to realize how dumb they are. But what does D turn out to be? They know a lot. They know a lot. They're the smartest ones, right? So this one. And the line reference would, of course, be D also. Why? Because that's the part that mentions F's ideas, right? So that's D, right? Okay, 18, which action would most likely reduce political extremism among the citizenry? Okay, so just okay, so if you look at the answer choices, it's not just talking about the experiment. It has to do with the implications that are mentioned in the last paragraph also. So remember, in the last paragraph, he said, if you tell the candidates to actually explain the complex policies and that kind of thing, that's going to actually decrease the extremism, right? Kind of thing. So that would be B, right? This was that part in the very last sentence, if you remember, right? If not the very last sentence, but somewhere near the very end. Yeah, it is the last sentence, right? Forcing candidates to provide concrete and elaborate plans might be a start, gives citizens a starting place, right? So they might become less extreme. Okay, so 20 is... just looking at figure 1 only, right? You're only looking at figure 1. So be careful always, okay? So I told you before, if they're only asking you about a figure or a graph or a table, you can't make any value judgments. You can't make any hypothesis. You can't hypothesize anything, right? You can't say this supports another hypothesis, right? They need, if it's asking about like the passage also, then you might think about it. If it's trying to, if it's saying, hey, what's like the common ground between the passage and like the graph or something like that, and in what terms can you explain the graph? In terms of the passage, try explaining this graph. If they say that, then I can, use the opinion. But if it's just a figure, I'm just going to look at the figure only. So easy, right? So let's take a look at figure 1. Okay, so what are we asking though? Describes the change in the mean self-ratings of the volunteers after they were asked to analyze and explain, right? Okay, so how did it change? you asked them to analyze and explain. This is the hard thing to do, right? What would they be like? Okay, so what happened? So mean self-rating went down a lot, almost by a point. Well, not a point, but like more than half a point, right? So it went down, right? It went down. That's what you want to say. Okay, so went down. So it's C here. They have more self-doubt, right? According to both the passage and figure 2, making a list has little impact on an individual's. Okay, so let's take a look at figure 2 also. I mean, so listing the reasons, what did the passage say about that? The passage said, I mean, you don't even actually need to look at figure 2 because the passage only said one thing. If you're just simply listing reasons, you're not going to change, right? What does passage 2 say? List reasons, you do not change, right? So you don't change. You don't change, so, I mean, I wasn't even thinking about this. Yeah, of course we're talking about your position on an issue, right? So people don't change their positions. So A is the right answer here. Okay, so tomorrow we'll finish the 3 passages. And also, can you guys bring that history printout that I gave you guys? So if we can go over some of the passages for that tomorrow. Okay. Also, when you guys go home, I want you guys to do the outlining. Okay, you guys remember that, right? So you look at the spoon-fed reading book, and you go over the passages that you read, and you try to outline them. Okay, like I do on the board, right? Okay, okay, fine.